Stepping out from the shadows, here's your look at the NECA Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Super Shredder Shadow Master. The Shredder lives after suffering defeat at the hands of the Turtles. The leader of the Foot Clan plots his revenge. Desperate to vanquish his foes, Shredder consumes the last bit of mutagen to transform himself into the hulking Super Shredder. Inspired by the classic mail-away figure from 1991, the Super Shredder stands over 8 inches tall and is painted in an all-new dark deco scheme. Before we get a closer look at a more shadowy Shredder, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the figure stands by taking the tape measure of mine and putting it right to the very top of Shredder's head. I'm actually going to go a little bit further than where his head would be, instead taking it right to the very top of his head spike. Because after all, that's the highest point on the figure. While I'm getting that all in order, I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys that provided the sample of Shadow Master Shredder that we could have a look at in this review. Taking it, like I said, to the very top of the point that I just indicated, Shadow Master Super Shredder, that's a lot of S's, stands 9.8 inches in height. Switching that over to centimeters, the figure is almost 25 centimeters, 24.9 to be exact. Obviously, the main comparison you guys will want to see is how Super Shredder Shadow Master version compares next to the regular Super Shredder that we had gotten before from NECA. So in order to accomplish that, I'm going to move over Super Shredder Shadow version. I'm going to bring in the regular Super Shredder so you guys can see the difference. Proportions, as well as the figure, they have not changed, although Shadow Master Shredder seems a little bit bigger, and that's simply just because I got the legs more wider apart. Just bring that up a little bit. There we go. Gives you a good idea of how one Shredder stacks with the other. There is some notable differences that I see, and primarily all of it's going to be paint related. We'll get a little bit more in-depth with comparisons of the two figures in a second. And then for other comparisons, we just bring in one of the Ninja Turtles. Poor Michelangelo is sort of sandwiched in between two Shredders. That's not going to spell well for him. But it kind of gives you, again, a good idea of just how much bigger Super Shredder is versus the other Ninja Turtles that NECA Toys have also produced. So it would seem that the accessories packed with the original Super Shredder have mysteriously found their way inside the packaging of the Shadow Master variant of the figure. We're going to have a look at the accessories, and then we'll further continue our journey doing some comparisons left to right with this Shredder and the original Shredder, comparing apples to apples, or I guess in this case, Shredders to Shredders. Starting first, he comes included with the same canister of TGRI Ooze, making use of a translucent, I guess not so much translucent, green plastic, and then painting over top of it the effective silver and a very clear to read TGRI logo on the side of the canister. This can fit in his hands, though not currently these hands, but he does come with a couple of hands suited for the job. Say, for example, he comes with these gestured hands, good for mauling turtles, but also good for cupping and holding the canister if you want to have him holding the ooze canister this way. Or if you want something a little bit more secure, Shredder also comes included with three various different gripping hands. This one being the widest of the bunch, and just the prime contender for holding the canister of ooze in his hand, secure in place. This isn't going to fall out at all. I guess technically, while we are talking about hands, we'll go back to these hands. Like I said, he comes with a couple of wider gripping hands or grabbing turtle hands. And again, look at the detail on these. So quick we are as collectors to pick up these figures, choose the hands that we want to use for the displaying of these, and then we just put these back in the packaging without really appreciating the amount of detailing that NECA put into these pieces in the first place. Even something as small as hands get afforded just as much sculpting and paint as the actual figure itself. He comes with those, and he comes with the other gripping hands I didn't show you earlier. These ones have a slightly smaller grip, suitable perfectly for him holding the spear, which we'll go back to in a second. I want to show you first the spear, and I want to also bring in the spear that came included with the original Super Shredder, so you guys can see the difference between the two. While molding is identical, there seems to be a slight different shade variant between one to the other. The original Super Shredder seems to have a wash of brown over top of it. You see, it's almost got like a more grimier looking color to it. It doesn't have the clean, pristine silver that the new Super Shredder has. But other than that, I mean, it's basically the exact same spears. quickly going back to these hands. You can bring the fingers away from the palm and then sliding the handle in place. You've got yourself a nice firm grip holding the spear. And he does technically have the capabilities of holding the spear with both hands. It just would involve you grabbing the other hand and, of course, attaching it to the other side. Up to the point of comparing the two Super Shredders that we will be doing in this review, I had the other Super Shredder displayed holding the canister of ooze in his hand. I think I may mix things up a bit now that I have the Shadow Master version. I may find myself instead, I think, displaying him with the spear because I didn't do it before, and it's too cool of a spear to leave off displaying with the figure. Segueing now to Super Shredder. A lot of S's. Getting a closer look at the figure, I really like the detailing in the paint that they've upgraded on this figure that the original figure didn't have necessarily. And it's, again, and not until you slide this one over and bring this one in do you see the difference between the two. It wasn't so much that I had an issue with the original Super Shredder, though now you see the difference side to side. I really welcome this darker metallic purple that they've utilized for the body of Super Shredder, whereas now the lighter Super Shredder's colors almost come across a little bit more cell-shaded. The armor doesn't seem like changes too much, although when you're looking at the two side to side, I can't help, maybe you can't help as well, to see a little bit of extra blue that they've incorporated into the actual shoulder pads and the blades themselves. The head sculpts, and something else that I didn't notice until comparing the two side to side, it seems like his eyes, and it could be maybe just my own eyes playing tricks on me, that his eyes are a little clearer to see on the Shadow Master version that the original Super Shredder didn't necessarily have. The head sculpt as well as the rest of the body sculpts are exactly the same. So really, it's more a case of picking your poison or picking your mutagen to decide for yourself which one is the better looking Super Shredder to be putting on display. Again, I really like this metallic purple. It works so effectively to still enhance the musculature on his body, and yet still add some nice shadowing to it. That metallic purple works really well. And it wasn't until I took the figures out of the packaging, or took this one out of the packaging and retrieved this one from my collection, to spin the figures around, do you not see then a difference between the capes? The cape here, though, is, I think, a little bit more closer to the way it looks in the movie. Just an upgrade for the original Super Shredder cape that he had from the original 90s movie. But when you see it compared next to this Super Shredder, this actually has a more rubbery look to it. It has a little bit more elasticity to the cape itself, and it certainly has a lot less of that silver line work that the original cape had. In a case like this, I'm not sure which one I like more. In the interior cape department, it still has more of a matte finish. Again, when you see the two capes side to side. But it really, when you're looking at them in the back, I'm liking the fact that they've changed up the capes to further differentiate one Super Shredder to the other. But that point I mentioned before, though, the eyes seem to be a little easier to read on this Shredder. You also notice it looks a little bit more cross-eyed, although you would just imagine that the turtle is standing in front of him, and he's having to look down on them. A touch of detail I certainly appreciate, and I maybe not have mentioned it when we had a look at the original Super Shredder, is if you tilt the head up, he actually does have sculpting underneath the faceplate. You can see it right there. Part of me is so tempted to want to try to remove the faceplate, but I don't think anything would be underneath that. You would get sculpting, of course, where the eyes would be, and you may get sculpting underneath. But I would imagine the rest of it is probably unfinished. Speaking of finish, though, the finished paintwork done to this, just to the helmet itself, I love the dry brushing of scratched-in silver just on the edge of the blades, where it almost looks, when you're seeing it, like it's super sharp to the touch. I can assure you, by the fact I've drawn no blood, that they are not sharp, but it does definitely look like they'd have a real sharp serrated edge to them. Shredder, Super Shredder, whether you pick up this one or you have the original one, has a fantastic side profile going for it. I love also the fact that when you see his eyes are further back than his mask. It gives it a real level of depth. Like the look of the helmet. And again, all the things I'm really listing now are not really that different from the original Super Shredder, but things that I really enjoyed about that figure in the first place. Again, talking a little bit about this now rubbery looking cape, I think it works well with the darker color scheme of Shredder. Maybe it would be a case where if they had used the original cape, it would conflict a bit with this metallic purple, that I like instead that they went with this more shinier, slick looking black. It looks like running oil. Lifting the cape up just slightly so you can actually see the sculpting underneath, just as much paint and detail get put and utilized into the back of his torso as he had on the front of the torso as well. Of course, you can see the detailing done to his lower belt, and it looks a little strange having his cape over his head like that. But the detailing done to his lower half really does have some nice looking detail. And now you certainly want to probably see what it looks like with the original Super Shredder. Not much changes, though there are probably a little bit more silver that gets utilized on the belt portion of his lower underoos. He has a lot less of it here on the original release. It's almost looking like they've just used and kept to the original mold color with just a little bit of silver afforded. A lot more silver gets afforded here. Again, it's really more a matter of preference than anything else. There's nothing really wrong necessarily with the original Super Shredder, but I must say when I'm comparing the two side to side, this darker purple definitely makes the figure, I feel, look a little bit more popish, like it stands out a lot more. And you would imagine as well, if Super Shredder is fighting the turtles underneath the dock pier, that you would probably want to have a darker looking Shredder. And I think this one pulls it off more effectively than the original release. Looking at the posability now on Super Shredder Shadow Master version, it's basically a photocopied version of the original Super Shredder. The body doesn't change at all, so all the posability that was on the original figure also gets carried over to this one as well. Let's have a look at that right now. His head is on a ball joint, and it can move up and down. Although while I am doing this, really some of the credit should be given to the base of the neck as well, because he does technically have two ball joints. One at the very top that's sitting inside the cavity of the head, and then one at the base of the neck, right down here. It's just hidden underneath his collar, and I really like how the blending of sculpt from the top of the neck down to the bottom of the collar seems seamless. Really does look nice. But like I said, the head does rotate back and forth on the ball joint in the head, but then the neck also allows the head to move down and up further than what it would be able to do if the neck was part of the rest of the body. As for the arms hinge out very comfortably at a 90-degree angle bend. I did notice that the arms were a little on the tight side. I didn't actually heat the joints up on this Super Shredder. Instead, I just kind of took them out of the packaging, just worked the joints slowly, carefully, and didn't have any real issues. This arm is a little on the tighter side, but certainly not to the point that's going to bother me. I'd rather, again, tight joints in these figures than super loose joints. The arms can, like I said, hinge out a very comfortable 90-degree angle bend. The spikes on his shoulders are also high enough as well that allows a little bit of clearance. You can see right there. So the arms move out and the shoulders aren't in the way, not butting up and not being a nuisance. You can also bring the arms forward. You can bring the arms back. He does have a swivel. Now the swivel actually isn't part of his bicep. The bicep is part of his shoulder. This is all one piece right here. But he does effectively have a double hinge on the elbow, so you can bend it back and forth this way. And whatever hand you decide to display with the Super Shredder, his hand rotates all the way around. And he does also have a hinge back and forth this way as well. Speaking of concealing things, Super Shredder, looking at it, you would think he only has a ball joint probably right here, right? Nowhere else? Well, he does. He actually has one right underneath. Follow the guidelines here of his pectoral muscle. You can probably even see it from the side here. Super Shredder effectively conceals an upper torso ball joint where you can move it back and forth, tilt it back and forth this way, and like I said, up and down. Really nice the way that they've hidden that. Then, of course, he does have the ball joint at the base of his abdomen, and that's concealed nicely underneath his underoos. You can rotate the torso back and forth, up and down, and you can also rock it back and forth this way as well. As for the legs split out. I stop myself while I'm going through this just to, again, admire this metallic purple. Boy, lately I've really been big on purple. You probably can tell by the backdrop here. And that dark metallic purple works so effectively well with this new Shadow Master release of Shredder. The legs go forward and back, out. There's the ball joint working right there behind the scenes. He does have a double hinge on the knee. And one thing he actually does have, he seems to have a swivel at the top of the knee. He doesn't have it here, and he doesn't have it here in the calf guard where his spikes are, which are soft plastic, by the way, something I really didn't mention up to this point. But he doesn't have the hinge joint here, or a swivel joint. Instead, he actually swivels at the top of the knee. We didn't spend a whole lot of time discussing his feet, quickly looking at them right now. very large clonkers here, and he does have actually pegs on the undersides of his feet if you want to make use of a NECA display stand. But the feet do hinge back and forth this way, so if you are somebody that enjoys your ankle pivots on figures, Super Shredder Shadow Master also possesses that as well. The feet hinge up and down, and you can technically rotate them all the way around, although it looks like it's going to be fighting it along the way. Probably not going to do that. All around, a great looking shredder. It goes to show, really, taking a mold that was already good. There was no real issues with the original Super Shredder. We can bring him in again so you guys can see the difference between the two. There is considerable difference between the two, and it just goes to show how paint can affect the look of a figure. You're basically just getting the exact same mold. The articulation is the same, and even further, he has the same accessories. So nothing really does change in that department. But by jumping from now almost looking like a cel-shaded looking Super Shredder and giving him this dark metallic purple, boy does it ever look sharp. And I'm not just saying sharp because of course he's got these blades all over his body. So the changes that were made to Shadow Master Super Shredder are purely cosmetic. Nothing has been remolded or retooled from that original Super Shredder. It's the identical figure with a different approach to paint. I guess you could technically say that the capes have been changed, going away from the one that had the little silver lines on that original Super Shredder in favor of a more slick, almost rubbery black look. I think it actually works a little bit better with the darker color scheme on this Shredder. The accessories are the exact same as the one that we got before, and yes, the bodies are exactly the same, so it's more perspective than anything else as to which one you prefer. Now that I really had more of an opportunity to compare the two figures side to side, do I think that this one might be the one I prefer to display with my movie Turtles? It's not necessarily finding fault with that original Super Shredder, but again, when I'm comparing it to the darker metallic purple, I think it looks a little bit more movie accurate, or a little bit more realistic, versus the Super Shredder that had the very visible dark line marks in the lighter color white, or that lighter purple color, and the darker slashes of black. They've kind of done away with that, really, with the Shadow Master version, instead sticking to the metallic dark purple, which I already love, and then just dry brushing the black over top of it. Again, it's more just a matter of preference than anything else. I think I like this one a lot more. It's not finding fault with the original Super Shredder, don't get me wrong, but I think for the purpose of displaying with my movie Turtles, this is the Super Shredder I'm going to decide to display them with. Now again, your opinion isn't wrong, it's just a matter of preference from one collector to the other. Which Super Shredder do you like more as being part of your collection? The Shadow Master version that we looked at in this review, or the original Super Shredder? Always like reading your comments down below. I'd also like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys that provided the sample of Shadow Master Super Shredder that we could have a look at in this review. Shadow Master Super Shredder, that's a whole lot of S's, is available right now in retail stores and online as well. If you are new to this channel and enjoying all the content we've been popping up as of late, and yet you haven't had a chance to hit that subscribe button down below, don't postpone any further what you can accomplish right now, right here, right in the moment. Hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and making sure, yes, that you're coming back to this channel, because we may be looking at some more turtle pieces. And we also are going to be looking at some more NECA releases as well. Lots of stuff coming your way, guys. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.